Hello, everybody, and happy Tuesday. If you have followed me for any amount of time, or if you've checked out my page, you're probably familiar with my Just the Tip Tuesday series, where I share natural digestive and gut health tips so you can get it right, which has been a super fun project. It's taught me so much. But today I actually wanted to dive in and start sharing in a bit of a different way, share something a little bit differently, which is that I wanted to create a series uh, about taking people behind the scenes of Gut Health Mastery, which is this new online course that I'm creating. Because I just feel like taking people behind the scenes and into my heart and into my mind as I journey through this would actually be a lot more of benefit to more people. Because I think most of us out there, many of us out there, or at least many people I know I'm connected with, are questing for new levels of self understanding and also questing for more levels of connection and more levels of meaning and deeper layers of healing within ourselves. And honestly, this journey for me as an entrepreneur who works in the wellness field has been incredibly healing, has been incredibly transformative. It's brought me up against a lot of my challenges and my limiting beliefs. And so I just kind of wanted to make this series as a space to air some of that out, and also have a space to share what it's been like for me to undergo this journey of creating my first ever online course, of taking years of practice and expertise in a field that is Ayurveda and gut health. That is something that has transformed my life and really changed the game for me, just in my own sense of well-being, but also that I've seen worked for so many other people that I've worked with. It's something that I'm super passionate about, and being able to take that and make a living from it, right? Like, who of us doesn't want to make a living doing something we love? Who wants to go to work every day and feel like it's a bore or a drag or like we dread it? I know for me, I can't. I can't operate in that way. It shuts me down in too big a way to feel like my spirit's expression is being squashed and being held back. So I really just wanted to come on and share, yeah, a bit of what this behind the scenes is like of doing all of this and what it's all about. And maybe you can walk away with some inspiration, whether that is to follow your own creative pursuits, your own dreams, your desires, because they're worth it and there's somebody out there who needs it. And maybe if it resonates with you as well, to go on this healing journey with me, to be part of this first founding group that I'm super excited to welcome in. To heal your gut and to create a deeper connection to yourself and your spirit and your body. If that sounds like you, then, maybe you're meant to be part of this group as well. So I really just wanted to first talk about what in the world is Gut Health Mastery? What is this? What is it about? I wanted to talk a bit about who I'm looking for to be a founding member of this group, what you'll get from this program, and also, yeah, just start to peel back the layers of how in the world this even came to my heart and my mind as what I wanted to do with my life at this period in time. So Gut Health Mastery is an 8-week online coaching course that I'm creating. And right now I don't know if it will ever actually be sort of just an online course where there's just videos you watch and then you just move on and click to the next one. I've done plenty of courses like that myself. But honestly, the most transformational courses that I've ever done have been the ones where there is a live container, where I'm connected to other people, where coaching and growth and transformation can happen together. Because I truly believe that healing and changing our mind happens best and in the most powerful way when it's held in a space, it's held in a circle. So the intent for this whole container is that it's actually going to be an 8-week online group coaching course with just 15 people in this first round. And the intent there is to be able to hold this space, have it a tight-knit community, have it tight-knit energetically so that we can really spend a lot of time with each person. Because I think, although I want to bring to the table my own expertise with Ayurveda and with gut health, really who this course is for is somebody who's interested in healing and growth and evolution. But they also want to learn more about diet. They want to learn more about nutrition. But as well, they want to learn how they can fit that into an otherwise busy life. I think I've seen this for a lot of my clients. They end up coming to me with gut health issues, with energetic issues, with mood issues, with we can just say a gambit of health dilemmas. Oftentimes because health ended up being sort of put lower and lower on the list of what's their priority. And I think this has a lot really to do with our belief system, that our value is not necessarily just inherent. In fact, many of us believe or have been taught to believe that our value is based on what we produce, on what we create for society, right? And many of us, that comes down to how much money we're making, for example, or whether or not we have a happy partnership, or whether or not we have a house or a car or things to show for it, right? A lot of us have been taught to aspire to these things, these outward shows of worth, but in the meantime, we kind of put our own selves on the back burner. We put our own needs on the back burner. We put ourselves behind or lower down than all of that. So the thing is, when we want to improve our diet, when we want to improve our nutrition and our health, oftentimes it takes a mindset shift, right? It takes actually recognizing that your health of your body is the most important thing, because if you don't have that, well, what is the rest of it for? What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with the money or the houses or the vacations you can't even go on or enjoy? For example, say your gut health is destroyed. Well, what's it going to mean to you to go to a new city and want to eat your way through the town, but you can't even stomach it, right? So it's also for people who I think are interested in this notion of being able to heal your nervous system through your gut. Because there's a really strong connection between our nervous system and our gut health that science is just starting to uncover more and more. And for many people, I think nervous system healing has become a big buzzword, right? It's something that a lot of us are understanding, the ways that maybe we're breaking from intergenerational trauma or patterns of developmental trauma of when we're growing up, and understanding the importance of being able to regulate our nervous system, regulate ourselves, regulate our emotions in order to be able to communicate better, have healthier relationships, and not give in to so many limiting beliefs when it comes to our work and our profession and our dreams and success and the businesses we're building. But the thing is, all of that, to a great degree, is not just a mental game, right? And that's something that science is starting to actually look to and acknowledge more and more. If you could just think your way out of nervous system dysregulation, most people, frankly, would have done it, right? Like you would have just figured like, oh, well, that's silly that I feel bad about this, or I feel nervous, or I feel afraid, and I'm just going to do it, right? But for a lot of us, there's actually a physiological response that is connected to whatever mental emotional pattern is going on. So whatever dysregulated state you're feeling in your nervous system, you feel it in your body. And science is proving more and more that actually what goes on in your gut, what goes on in your digestive system, is going to hugely influence what is then actually perceived, what information is being transferred to your nervous system. And that is a huge, huge part of healing your nervous system that a lot of people, I guess, just aren't talking about, or at least I haven't seen that many people really talking about how important it is, right? And it may also be people who want to heal their gut actually by addressing what's going on in their nervous system, right? Because they're so connected. And this is definitely the case for a lot of people who've maybe tried, I've worked with a lot of people in my past who end up coming to me and coming to Ayurveda, these alternative health approaches, because they feel like there's, like they've tried everything, right? They've gotten the tests, they've seen doctors, they maybe seen specialists, their numbers came back either normal or they just got a diagnosis, but now they don't know what to do with it. They've maybe tried pills or they've tried supplements, right? They've tried fiber, they've tried probiotics, and they still struggle to feel healthy, right? They still feel like they're struggling to keep their ideal weight, or like they're struggling to keep their mood and their emotions, their emotional and hormonal balance in check. Or they're just struggling with their energy levels and their motivation, right? And at this point, right, they feel like they've tried everything, they've done all the things, and so they end up with me, and they end up here with Ayurveda, only to learn that what really needs to change is actually their approach to what they're doing, right? And if you're concerned or questioning, like, well, what is that approach, right? What is the Ayurvedic approach? Don't worry, we're going into that over the next few days, over this live series, to learn even more about it. And how Ayurveda works, because really so much of it is actually about shifting your paradigm away from what you think is healthy. Because if whatever you've been doing that is all the things has not actually succeeded in creating a greater state of health or wellness or well-being in your body, then why are you so convinced it's healthy? Right? I see this a ton with people who go on a diet, for example, which is why I've been talking about that recently on my page. People who are, trying to lose weight or trying to diet for some other health goal or fitness goal, wellness goal, they end up going on these diets only to realize like things don't quite work or they don't quite feel good, right? But they're convinced they're eating all the healthy things or they're doing the right things for their health. But I always say, well, the proof is in your body. I mean, the proof is literally showing up right here. The things you're doing, the things you're eating, the way you're eating, the way you're approaching food and diet is actually working. So if it's not working for you, what do we need to do? We don't need to just hop on to the next trend of healthy. That's not really that beneficial, right? Because it's just going up another tree that isn't actually leading you to the source of the problem or the source of the answer. And where is the source of the answer? Where is the source of the problem? And it's actually, the problem is most often in our mindset and in our disconnection from our body. And the solution itself is actually then the flip side of that, which is greater connection to ourselves, greater understanding of our body, and a greater ability to respond to what our body needs. That is really at the core of Ayurveda, and that's what's at the core of my Gut Health Mastery course, is not just teaching you another diet, and is not just teaching you, all of the terminology of Ayurveda that's out there that could take you years to master and learn, Sanskrit and try and wrap your brain around a whole new paradigm. But what I really want to dive this group of founding members into is how to really put it into practice, how to actually connect with your body, how to actually use Ayurveda to help decipher what your body is saying so that you can actually then approach food and diet and your lifestyle and even every other area of your life with whole new fresh eyes that put your health first, that put you first. Because if you're not doing that, you cannot expect things to work out for you. You cannot expect things to be going in the right direction for you. I mean, I believe they always are, because if anything, you're just understanding more of what you don't want, what you don't like. But the sad thing is, you could spend years of your life doing things you don't want to do. You could spend years of your life feeling unwell or not feeling like you're living up to your fullest. Or you could, instead of moving further in that direction, you could start to move towards the direction of where your spirit really wants to take you. And I've always been a big believer that your body is the vehicle of your spirit, and it is the messenger of your spirit. So if you are struggling with certain symptoms or with certain recurring patterns, right? Things that are maybe more chronic or more persistent, like say you've struggled with hormones since, puberty, or you've struggled with digestive health for almost forever, or you've struggled with skin issues like eczema or psoriasis on and off here and there, or just other patterns like that, things that come up and that seem to be health struggles, but you can't quite seem to shake. The reason you can't quite seem to shake them is most often because you haven't removed the root cause of that. You haven't taken out of your lifestyle or of your diet whatever is there that is actually feeding those patterns. And you haven't, even if you have taken those out, you haven't actually given something that balances you in the opposite direction. Because if you've ever cut yourself, if you've ever, been in the kitchen, you cut yourself or you get a scrape, over time it heals. Because the reality is your body is meant to heal. Your body is designed to heal. Your body has literally the wisdom of our entire planet that is growing and breathing and evolving constantly within your cell tissue. So the notion that there's, especially with gut health diseases, that they are incurable, paints a really limited picture. Because your gut is designed to heal. In fact, I bring up this example of like getting a cut on your finger, on your skin, because the cell tissue of your gut lining from your mouth to your anus is the exact same type of tissue as your skin. It's epithelial tissue, which means it's one of several types of cells in your body that are designed the same way. So actually, oftentimes what's going on in your skin is actually a reflection of what's going on in your gut, because they're literally made from the same building blocks, if that makes sense. And all of this is to say, in order for that cut on your finger to heal, right? Can you continue to scratch at it? Can you continue to open that wound? Can you continue to put salt or vinegar or these abrasive things into that wound and expect it to heal quickly? Probably not, right? And the exact same thing happens in your gut. The exact same thing happens in your gut. With things that are not healing, it's not because it can't heal. It's actually because the circumstances for it to heal have not been created. And so this is a big thing that I actually see within the world of gut health and the world of digestive health that I find really interesting. This notion that there's incurable diseases or, like IBS, IBD, irritable bowel syndrome, is considered something without a cure. But then how are people curing themselves? Right? Just by changing their diet, just by creating a diet that actually fits their body. Because what they're doing is they're taking out this environment that has been caustic to them, and they're creating an environment where healing can now happen, and then you start to move in a healing direction. And this goes for whether you are trying to heal something at a physical level or something at an emotional level, right? If you can think to some place in your life where there's an emotional challenge or a psychological challenge, right? Something that really stresses you out or triggers you or overwhelms you, what's to say you can keep thinking the exact same way. You can keep believing the exact same things about yourself and about the other people involved. You can keep believing the exact same things about the world and how it's maybe against you. And that problem will get better. Right? If you never change any internal thought process around it, how do you expect it to just get better miraculously someday? But instead, if you're able to change the way you think and change the way you see it, change your perspective, then your actions will start to reflect that. The thing you start to do will reflect that. And also the environments externally that you agree to put up with will also change. You might start saying, you know what, I don't want to go to that job anymore. Or I don't want to take part in that friendship that doesn't feel so great anymore. I don't want to have to interact with that person as often as I do or in the way that I do. Right? You actually start to reclaim some of your autonomy and some of your choice, and you start to create circumstances for your own healing, which is then a circumstance for your own growth and your own evolution. And so whatever is happening at that psychological level is also the same process at this physical level. And that's really a big part of what Gut Health Mastery is about, right? It's not just taking you on this journey of like, hey, eat these foods, this is what's right for your body type, done, check, moving on. But actually to help you to integrate a paradigm of healing in your life, right? How can you actually walk around seeing your life through the eyes of your own greatest healer and seeing your life through the eyes of someone who's empowered to choose what is more healthy and more supportive of your evolutionary journey? That's really what this course is about. That's really what inspires me. It's not just giving you like a grocery list. And so, frankly, like if there are people who just want another diet or just want to be told what to do or just want an easy, quick Band-Aid solution, this isn't the course for you, right? Like if you're just looking for the next magic pill or the one right supplement that will fix all of your things or the one right superfood you can buy off Amazon to fix your gut health, this isn't the course for you because I'm convinced that is not the way. You cannot quick fix your way to every dream you want. You cannot quick fix your way to the greatest health that you desire. You cannot quick fix your way to a dream life. You have to really get in touch with your body and with your mind and with your spirit and how you can align those so that you can move in the direction of what you want. This course is also a place to talking about healing, not just to understand it at some conceptual level, but more importantly, at a personal and an evolutionary level, right? I mean, I think the people who this course is really for are people who have actually spent some time walking their healing and personal development and evolutionary journey. And they're also a person who, because of that, they've likely looked into science at some point for interesting information or statistics or data or just trying to deeper truth quest for how are things working here? How does our brain work? How does our nervous system work? How does our body work? How does health really work? What are we learning about it? The more deeply we can look into it today. But they're also interested in timeless wisdom. whether that's from shamanic roots or Ayurvedic roots or these ancient alternative health practices. And I say alternative health there in air quotes because I guess my question for you would be, well, at what point in time did Ayurveda or traditional Chinese medicine or Native American medicine or any type of folk medicine, herbalism, for example, at what point did that become alternative? Question. Just going to put that out there. Because oftentimes to call these other approaches that have actually been around for thousands and thousands of years and have been proven through trial and error and have tons of success stories, and in fact in many countries are actually practiced as a licensed health profession, like Ayurveda is in India, for example. You know, when I say that, I mean you can go to like an Ayurvedic hospital or a Western hospital. So you can go to the alternative medicine hospital, and it's actually a genuine, government-sponsored place to go. The thing with it being called this alternative approach to health says that there's actually a correct approach to health, says that there's actually a mainstream approach to health. There's a right way, right? It's kind of like when people talk about like you order coffee and it's like, what kind of milk do you want? And you ask for like coconut milk or normal milk, right? Is it normal milk or is it cow's milk? Well, it's just the mainstream milk, so we call it normal. And that's sort of the thing with what I'll just say, like the Western healthcare approach. For so many of us, it is considered the standard approach, right? It is the mainstream approach. It is the correct approach. And so these other approaches that have maybe been around for a lot longer are all of a sudden alternative, right? But the people I work with are open to learning that alternative because they're also interested in science and because they are truth seekers and because they are not just trying to, follow some rule book. Doesn't matter how old it is, whether it's a new rule book or it's an old, thousands of year old rule book, but they're actually looking for truth and answers in their own body and their own experience. And that's what's taken me to a greater level of healing in my life. And that's what's really allowed me to work with my clients in a much more skillful way, right? It's not just like, reading them some paragraph out of an old textbook of like, this should work for you, right? Let's stop shooting on ourselves. And in fact, let's start listening to ourselves. Let's start connecting more deeply to our bodies, start understanding our needs through new eyes and a new lens so that you can then respond through food, through your diet, through what you eat, through the timing of your meals, and through what you're doing with your day-to-day and your mindset and your energy, what you're doing inside to approach your life in a whole new way. And these people are also interested, I think, in just thinking more healthy and more empowered thoughts. Especially with the notion that creating a new sense of operating beliefs inside of you will not only support a brighter future for you, but it will support a brighter future for our collective. Our collective future depends actually on more of us being able to live a healthy life, to being able to stay connected to ourselves, to stay connected to what is true for our bodies, and not just try and share more information that we haven't even really proven, right? I think we're all here for a reason. And if you also believe that we're all here for a reason, you cannot believe that the things inside of you need to stay trapped. You have to believe that the things inside of you have to come out to the surface. And the way that you can actually connect to those things that are inside of you is through your truth. And so you have to be able to tap into that. And if you tap into that truth and if you bring it forwards, then actually you're bringing a huge gift to the collective. Because if you're about here for a reason, you're here to bring something, right? And so yeah, this is really what I'm excited for, in these founding members, is just these people who are wanting to spend more of their time feeling more connected and who are wanting to spend more of their time healing patterns that have maybe been holding them back from greater levels of love or success or abundance along their way, and actually being able to bring Ayurveda into their daily lives and truly put it into practice. Because I will say, one thing that I want to be really different about this course, one thing I know is very special about this course, is it's not just a place to learn Ayurveda. There's many places you can do that. There's many amazing qualified institutions you can do that. But keep in mind, Ayurveda in and of itself, to become a practitioner, it's a health science. So it actually takes a lot of dedication to get to that level. And that's not necessarily what I want to share with people. I don't just want you to learn Ayurveda. I actually want you to practice Ayurveda. because I've also seen the people who I think excel the most in sharing Ayurveda, and even just sharing healing practices, are not the people who've just learned and memorized the most, but it's the people who've most been able to integrate it in their own lives. Because the reality is, many of us are leading lives that are busy, and that, as I mentioned earlier, we just have a lot on our plate, whether it's our family or whether it's a profession or whether it's our dreams and trying to, build something on the side that feels really good for us, whether that is, a more professional or career pursuit, or whether that's a creative pursuit, or both, right? But we often have so many things that feels like on our plate, or maybe we just feel emotionally saturated as someone who is a sensitive human being, right? Feel maybe emotionally overwhelmed or kind of to the brim. Just going through day-to-day life just as somebody who feels a lot and feels genuinely and feels honestly and feels very connected. But at the same time, can you be in all of that and still practice your own best health? It's not easy. It takes shifts in skills. It takes shifts in a paradigm. It takes shifts in how you are approaching things. And how you're approaching things is determined by how you see things. So that's really a big part of what Gut Health Mastery is about, is helping you see your gut, your health, your digestion, your food, your body, and how all of that is connected with your mind and your spirit and your purpose, connecting all of those dots, and then being able to run with it using a framework that you can repeat again and again, so that it actually shifts with you through each stage and each chapter of life as you change, right? As well, some of the questions that I've got about this program is well, how long is it going to take, right? What's the time commitment? What does this look like? So as I mentioned earlier, it is an 8-week live group coaching course. The calls that we're going to have are 2 to 3 hours each week. And I want to keep it to that so that it's really a container where we can go deep together. We can dive in. We can work through some of these beliefs. And like I said, there's different exercises involved. There's different belief busting that needs to happen. There's different learning of skills and of frameworks, as I mentioned, that we also need to work through in order for you to then walk away from those calls each week and be able to start taking action that week, right then and there, to create a gut health plan for yourself, but then also to start acting on it. I mean, by the end of this 8-week period, the idea is that you have moved in a positive direction, healing your gut. You notice that you have less symptoms like constipation or bloating, indigestion, gas, acid reflux. If you struggle with something that is more chronic or that has been around for a longer time, like colitis, gastritis, irritable bowel syndrome, irritable bowel disease, diverticulosis, diverticulitis, these other digestive symptoms that are maybe more developed, that nevertheless you will start to feel better in your gut. As well, as I mentioned earlier, this is for the people who want to work on healing their nervous system through their gut, or work on healing their gut through their nervous system, because they're so deeply connected. So you will, by the end of this course, have a whole new way to interact with your body, and it will become so well practiced by the end of this course that it will just become much more automatic, right? You won't be in that space of like, oh, well, what am I supposed to eat? Or what can I eat to feel good today, right? Some people end up in this place where they're actually, worried about, well, what in the world am I supposed to eat? Or even the logistics of like, how do I incorporate healthy eating into a busy schedule, right? Into this schedule where I have so many other priorities. By the end of this course, you will have a game plan and tips and tricks and hacks and practice at actually making that work for you. Because it doesn't need to be so hard. But I think part of the reason that we tend to make it like this really big challenge is either one of two things. One is that we don't have the skills to do it. And by that, I mean, maybe we grew up in a family where our food patterns were very erratic, or where, it could even be you grew up in a family where you never had to yourself take charge for your own food. Like you always had somebody preparing food for you. Or you got into a stage, I noticed for me in my case, I didn't necessarily have the most erratic childhood. We actually had pretty regular meal times, but by the time university came around, between university life and between work, like my meal times were all over the place, and I was eating like all sorts of convenience things, And I think for many of us, by the age that you're actually starting to work, food often becomes more of just a question of convenience, of just fuel, instead of actually, instead of actually like this deep rooted, oh, I'm caring for myself, right? Hi, Kathy. Oh my gosh, I love to see you here. Sometimes I would eat alone, have to eat quickly. Eating quickly, this is so another thing, right? Like sometimes we get like a 30-minute lunch break, or we feel like we have to, if you work from home, if you work from a computer, hi. Sometimes you feel like you're like taking calls or answering emails and there's like bits of sandwich falling out of your mouth, right? Like just these habits where food is literally like on the last rung of priorities. And when food is on the last rung of priorities, it actually sends a signal to your gut and to your nervous system that your body is and its needs are secondary to whatever external outside force is ruling the game, right? Whether that's your job or whether that is having to people please some other person. And over time, that builds up a load of stress in your body. And we already know that that more chronic stress is actually behind the majority of most chronic health issues. So it's this 8-week program, 2 to 3 hours a week, live call, where I'm walking you through the exact steps that I use to the ones that I use to heal my gut and the ones that made the biggest leaps, sort of the biggest milestones within my own gut healing journey. And I'd be super happy to share about, what those steps were. And also, interwoven into that is actually how I work with clients, what I'm looking for when I work with clients to understand like, okay, if this person's having this struggle, where is the struggle coming from? What part of this? And I'd be happy to go into what those modules are if y'all are interested. But let's see what comments are saying. I struggle with GERD from stress, and then this preservative-packed food I reheat quickly, so this is relatable. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, I'll just say this. We live in a society that is very much driven by consumerism and is very much, as I mentioned way earlier in the call, if you watch the replay, is very much driven by our productivity. Like our sense of value and worth is driven by how much we produce, how much we create, how much we achieve, right? That's just so deeply layered into so many of our psyches. It so permeates everything we do. And because of that, we cannot actually heal our gut unless we heal our relationship with time. Unless we heal our relationship with our own lifetime, right? Not just time and the passage of it, but also, right? Recognizing like there's a start and there's an end, and what's going to happen in between that is up to you. And it's really easy for many of us, and I found this, especially for myself in the past, of like, it was so easy to like blame outside forces for things. And I'm not saying this is you in this case, right? Who commented this, but it's just to say, like, as a society, we've accepted so much to not have a healthy relationship with our bodies and to honor that, and to not have a healthy relationship with time, right? Because we're constantly trading time for money, right? And it's never enough. We never have enough time and we never have enough money. So it just drives this really perpetual sense of scarcity that, when I look at gut dysbiosis or nervous system dysregulation or chronic disease, chronic issues, chronic health issues that present themselves again and again, or even patterns that show up in relationships again and again, of course they haven't gone away because the circumstances that created them are still there. And that's what I was talking about earlier too. We have to create different circumstances for healing if healing is going to take place. But once we create a new set of circumstances at the physiological level, at the emotional level, at a mental and a belief level, then we can actually start to experience breakthroughs in our physical health. And we can have breakthroughs in our, every area of life, really. And that's what I'm hoping for in this. Somebody asked, at what time? Hello, Ale. Oh my gosh, it's awesome to see you here. I love this. Right now, we only have our first call scheduled because because it's a live group coaching program. There will be a survey that goes out to our 15 founding members closer to the start date. Our first call is on November 2nd. So we're actually shutting down the cart open phase, which is where, we're accepting registration for this on October 30th. So whether we hit 15 founding members or it's October 30th, whichever of those two happens first, we shut down the doors. And then on November 2nd, we dive in. I don't remember the time exactly, but send me your email. via inbox or just send me a message. Oh, why thumbs down? I'm thumbs upping. Oh my gosh. Oh, okay, crazy. Yeah, send me your email into my inbox and I'll get you connected. Or anybody else who's watching, I'll get you connected to everything you need to know. But yeah, the idea is that they're about 2 to 3 hours, and then you get to pop into, I know, crazy, right? You get to pop into that space. And also, I will say, for those who are not able to attend the call live, because look, I understand, it's 8 weeks, it starts November 2nd, and it runs up until the week right before Christmas. Some people out there I know might be saying like, oh, but like, I'm already busy, I don't necessarily have the time, to incorporate this into my week. I'm already struggling as is to create more food prep time and to make more time for myself and to make more time for meals. So how is just putting one more thing on my plate going to help me? And I will add to that, a lot of us, definitely during the holiday season, there's a lot of other things going on. There's family gatherings, there's friend gatherings, but I will say, how many of those gatherings also have food, right? And how much of that food is often like a binge? Right? And how much of that food, I'm not going to say it's not healthy food because it really depends on your body type, your metabolic type, where you're at with your gut health currently, and also what that food is. And if those two things line up, those two, areas line up into a healthy thing for you. But the thing is, I actually believe that this is the perfect time for this. I was reflecting on this last night because I myself right now, as I'm launching this course and I have like 15 days, to continue to promote it, my parents are coming on Wednesday, like tomorrow. So I was also like, I realized that I myself had this little notion of like being very connected to like, oh my gosh, like, am I going to have the time to do this? Oh my gosh, am I still going to have the time to also walk the talk and keep preparing meals for myself and eating healthy? Oh my gosh, can I still practice yoga? Can I still... will I actually be able to make the money that I'm hoping to make? Can I actually support myself doing what I love, right? Like I notice these same thought patterns in myself. And that's the thing, we all have these thought patterns. We think we don't have enough time. We think we don't have enough money. We think we don't necessarily have the support around us. Maybe you want to take an online Ayurveda course, but your partner's like, Ayur what? Right? Or you just grew up never having, been introduced to more alternative approaches to health. So it just, you don't feel like, oh, can this support me in the way that I need it to? You might also feel like, oh, I'm not ready. We tell ourselves we're not ready for so many things that we're so ready for and that we want so badly. Like, it's quite sad, actually. Because I guess, there's a lot of people that say, like, you'll never be ready. And I think that's true, you're never really ready. And what's to say, for me right now, I brought up that example of my parents coming, because it's like, well, yeah, I have a lot on my plate, but I actually realized the people this course is for is exactly the kind of people who have a lot on their plate and want to figure out how you can make this work for you. How can you make taking care of yourself? How can you make self-care a priority? How can you make eating healthy a priority and a skill set that you keep with you and a paradigm you walk forward with, even when you have family involved, even when you have work overwhelming you, even when you have stressors, even when you have deadlines. Like, I realize, oh my gosh, how perfect actually that I'm actually, life has put me exactly in the situation that I need to be in order to understand the people I'm working with at a deeper level. Like, how ironic and how beautiful, right? So yeah, are there other questions about this course or about things? I wanted to talk a little bit about, I guess just who am I, for those of you who maybe don't know me out there as well. And even, talking about being behind the scenes of Gut Health Mastery, what even inspired me to make this course. So, if you have questions, pop them down into the comment section. But in the meantime, I'm gonna talk about me. Because really, I've just been reflecting so much on this of like, having come to this place that I just have such a deep drive to create and to live life on my own terms. And Kathy, actually, you know me and you know this about me. Like, I think for so long, I can just remember us like being in the ocean Masunte and like floating around and talking about what we were going to do in the future. Even like really for as long as I can remember, I just remember feeling like a free spirit. And I remember feeling like I was here to help make the world a better place And I was here to do that just by being myself and sharing my personality and sharing what I had. And actually over time, I grew up in a family where I'll just say there was a lot of restriction around how much freedom could be expressed, how much emotion could be expressed, how much of just myself I felt like I could actually put out there and be and embody. And so from a very young age, actually, I remember I really started this battle with my body. And, with how my mannerisms came off to other people, I became really hypervigilant from a very young age as to, how can I protect myself from an environment where I actually don't feel safe? How can I protect myself in an environment where I didn't feel valued? And really, that had really deep, profound repercussions on my nervous system. And I, since I was a kid, struggled with gut health issues. And really only more as an adult and after having studied Ayurveda, after having studied gut health, I can understand, wow, like my tiny little nervous system as a child was shot and fraught and constantly in like this fight or flight state of wondering if I was going to be safe or if I was going to be punished or if I was going to be bullied, whether that was like through physical or emotional abuse, frankly. Like I was just always on edge. And part of that, I don't know which came first, chicken or egg, but I developed a really deep sense of sensitivity to other people that I still hold to this day, and a very deep sensitivity to emotions. So I am a very emotional person. I'm a very sensitive person. But the way I live it today, I've been able to transform those things into what I want to share with the world. Right? Because having struggled with gut health for so long and having struggled with my body and wanting to keep my body in check and not show it in too vulnerable of a way to other people, by the time I was in my early 20s, it took me into a dark place of really wanting to morph my body into this basically to follow the rules of fitness, right? Of like having to have a certain amount on the scale and having to have a certain amount of muscle and having to have a certain image in the mirror that I would see when I would look there. And that drove me to learning a lot about nutrition and learning a lot about diet and learning a lot about just sort of, let's just call this standard approach to all of that, right? So I was counting my calories, but at the same time, having learned about nutrition, I just had like 12 apps on my phone. It was kind of crazy actually back then. They were very novel at that time, back in like 2015, 16, whatever. I had so many apps on my phone of just like tracking my calories and tracking as well like my micronutrients. Like I had one app that I don't remember what it was called, but it was to track like eating berries and nuts and like making sure I was getting my omega-3s and enough broccoli and enough, like it was just like a checklist every day of I had to have beans and berries, and it's like a very plant-based thing. And at the same time, I had my other apps where I was making sure I was getting enough protein, enough fat, but not too much, and enough carbs and enough of all of that, with this intention for me at that time to pack on weight, to build muscle. And for my entire life, building muscle had actually been a challenge. And the thing is, some people maybe listen to this and they're like, oh, that's not me. But the thing is, from an Ayurvedic point of view, we all have a different body type. So when I actually learned about Ayurveda, I was like, what? There's people who struggle to put on muscle and I just happen to be one of them? What? And then there's people who struggle to lose weight, and then some people are just built that way. And then there's some people who are kind of in between, but maybe struggle with inflammatory stuff or like autoimmune stuff or like skin stuff. What? Like it was so mind-blowing to me to then have something tell me like, oh, there's a place where you fit. And this actually explains a lot about why your body does what it does. Because prior to actually finding Ayurveda, I think as many people who come across me and who end up studying Ayurveda with me come to it as this sort of like last resort thing. In my case, I only came to it after struggling for over a year with like terrible digestive and gut health. Like, because I was following this diet and because I was trying to pack on so many calories, because I was trying to like do all the right things, I was actually just not in touch with what my body needed. I wasn't in touch with what my body was craving. I wasn't in touch with how much food my body could actually handle and process given my lifestyle and my schedule and my stress and the times I could actually have meals. So I was trying to do all these things that I thought were healthy, but I was actually starting to feel worse and worse. And I was becoming like more constipated. Like days would go by that I would not be able to have a bowel movement unless I had coffee. which is why I talk about coffee a lot, because a lot of people actually depend on coffee to go to the bathroom in the morning, whereas our bodies are built to be able to go to the bathroom in the morning without having had coffee. If that's hard to believe, just know that there were humans before there was coffee around. And so, I would struggle with that. I would struggle with, when I was constipated, I was also get these just like terrible headaches many days. And I would be this fight to like, oh, like I have this headache coming on when I get home from work. But at the same time, I, was trying to go to the gym because I was trying to put on muscle and I was trying to put on weight. So I would go to the gym, like feeling terrible, feeling exhausted, feeling tired from work. But I would just tell myself like, okay, I can just keep pushing through. I'm just going to go like right to work. And then I'm going to come home from work. I'm going to go right to the gym, just push on through, and then I can rest. Like then I can eat, and then I'll just go to bed. Like I'll just, die at the end of the day then. I was coming to the point where I just felt so much indigestion. Like when I would lay down at night, sometimes I would get heartburn. Only later to realize that was because my body literally hadn't processed all the gosh darn calories I was trying to pack down that day. So it was just sitting in my gut. That's actually the cause for most people of heartburn, is you just still have stuff sitting in your gut. And as it's sitting in your gut, trying to process, because maybe it's too many calories, too much food, too hard to process for your gut, you don't have the right enzymes to process it, that acidity actually then starts to just continue to bubble up. And especially if you lay down, it starts to burn your esophagus. So I was getting heartburn and I was like, what in the world is happening? I was also just feeling really heavy in my body. Like I was just feeling excessively heavy. I would eat and immediately want to nap, but I would just push on through. And it really came to the point, what I could no longer stomach, literally, was the time when I basically would just get nauseous after every single meal. The only meal that I could have was actually a morning protein shake. And it was nice and cold, and it was like a liter of like, I don't know, it was like 2,000 calories. It was crazy. Like it was like protein powder, frozen berries, frozen banana, some spinach, my chia seeds or my flax seeds, making sure I'm getting my omega-3s and all of that in there, checking all the boxes. That doesn't necessarily sound like an unhealthy thing, but it was the wrong thing for my body type. It was the wrong thing for my stage of digestion. My metabolism could not handle it. And so I was packing that on day after day, prioritizing calories and not what my body was saying, prioritizing healthy based on some definition of some app and not the receipts that my body was sharing. And as I was doing that, I ended up becoming extremely nauseous every other meal of the day. And that went on for months, to the point, that's really what brought me to the doctor. Like I could handle a little indigestion, I could handle bloating daily, I could handle constipation, I could handle headaches, I could push through, right? Because I was so used to pushing through. I had grown up and I had strived to be able to push through for so long that when it came to my health, I just tried and I just did. And I think so many people I see out there do that. Just keep pushing and just keep going and just keep moving forwards, even when your body is suffering or calling for something different. But the thing is, as a society, we're not taught to understand our bodies. And we're not taught to understand that our bodies have a language. And we're not taught to understand that our symptoms are actually our body trying to speak to us and share with us exactly what's happening so that we can then shift it. We can then turn it on its head and address whatever the root cause is from a different place. So for me, I went to doctors, I went to specialists, I had like poop tests, urine tests, blood work, all the things. For me, it felt like all the things. Like I was just shelling out money, just trying to find an answer of like, well, what's going on here? Why am I feeling this? I even at some point, had, prescriptions for pills that were like anti-nausea, and just all of my numbers of my tests came back normal. I was fine. We don't know what's wrong with you. Some doctors kind of alluded like, well, maybe there's some sort of irritable bowel, something, but it's not exactly there yet. So it's not quite diagnosed, we can't quite diagnose it yet. So maybe let's just keep doing more tests. Hello, Madai, nice to see you. Taking people behind the scenes of Gut Health Mastery and currently sharing about, how I even got motivated to create this course. And so, I remember actually, like, I feel like a turning point for me was with one doctor in particular, and blessed be this beautiful guide of a person in life. Because I remember being with him after all of these tests and all of these months of struggling with my gut. And sitting across the table from him, he ended up writing out a prescription for a nausea pill. And I think some sort of anti-inflammatory for my headaches. And I remember asking him, but can you tell me why this is happening? And he looked up at me, silence, looked back down, finished writing the prescription, handed it over to me and said, well, I think you should try this for 2 weeks and then come back and see me. And if this takes away your nausea, then at least we have a solution. And I walked out of that door feeling so frustrated that I had no more answers than when I walked in. That I had no idea what was going on with my body, that I felt so disconnected from my body, that I felt so frustrated that it was like, how do I even, I was in my early 20s and I was like, how am I struggling so much just to feel good in my early 20s? Like, it can only go downhill from here. And it really came to this point where I had like pretty dark thoughts, to be honest, of like, if I feel this bad at like 22, 23, how can I keep going? Because I literally couldn't eat a meal without feeling nauseous. And then I was like, or I could just depend on this pill for the rest of my life? I ended up throwing that prescription away, and I went home and I sat on my sofa and I looked across my kitchen, and I remember under my countertop, because here in Mexico we have, like space under our counters, we don't necessarily have always the wood cabinets, and I had these 2 huge, big buckets of protein powder. GNC, like buy 2, get 1 half off, whatever. I had this huge store of all of this like weight gain protein powder. And I remember looking across from it. Hello, Tanya. I remember looking across on myself and just feeling like defeated and broken, and seeing the protein powder, which recall was the only thing I could eat in the mornings as I was trying to pack on like 2,000 calories in a meal. And I remember just looking at it, and something in my body and something in my intuition, like, I connected my nausea with that as I looked at it. And I had this mind-body connection moment where it was like a little voice or a little knowing or just something inside me said, that is part of the problem. And it was only later that I really started to unravel how it was part of the problem. I mean, I listened to that call. Sometimes when intuition's clear like that, you just gotta go with it. And I remember walking out of my home, I left those 2, one was totally unopened. I left them on the corner, and I was just like, whoever needs these more than I do, go for it. And only then did I really start to peel back this whole onion of like, not only like, well, why did I quest to ingest 4,500 calories a day? Like, why was that my goal? As I was counting my calories less, and as I started leaving behind some of those reliance on just like the convenience foods, the powdered protein and the other packaged foods that I had. And I started to actually try and just understand like, I just want to cook something easy. I just want to cook something doable. I just want to feel good in my body. I started recognizing like, wow, the things that were actually driving me and were driving my actions had nothing to do with my health. They had everything to do with my insecurities. And in fact, it was only in starting to do something that did not fuel my insecurities anymore, and in doing something in the opposite direction, that I then started to create that circumstance for healing for myself. So after that is when I actually remember Googling like natural digestive health, natural digestive cures. And that's when I came across Ayurveda. And I remember taking a quiz, and this is something you can go online and do, take a quiz to find out your dosha, which is, like your body type. I actually work with something I call the metabolic type, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But you can take this quiz to figure out what's your body type. And for my case, right, like I had said, I was a person who had always struggled with putting on weight. And I found like, oh, wow, that's, there's people who are just meant to be skinny, who are not necessarily this hegemonic model of beauty for masculinity. And like, oh, okay, interesting, right? And, oh, I tend towards gas and bloating and constipation. And I tend to have weak digestion. Oh, interesting. Oh, and I shouldn't eat cold foods. But I was starting my day with this 2,000 calorie frozen cold drink. Interesting, right? And I was thinking about all the other convenience foods that I was eating. And also, I shouldn't eat dry foods. That's interesting, because at work, like I would mostly open some package and like eat some nuts, or I would eat some crackers, or I would eat some cookies. I would eat something convenient just to pack in more calories, and then maybe have a yogurt just because it was, more protein, also cold, right? I think I was having at that time like maybe a few like warm home cooked meals a week. And mostly it was like these cold or processed foods that were just like really easy to pack down. And my gut was rebelling. My body was rebelling, and I just kept trying to push because I was so used to doing that, right? But this quiz really helped me see like, wow, I was literally doing, oh, and I drank a ton of coffee at that time too, because I was so exhausted because I actually was not absorbing so much of my nutrition, and I was pushing so hard every day at work and in the gym. And I was also like trying to live a very active social life because that was really like the thing that kept me going, honestly, at that time, and kept me out of like my very dark places and my thoughts and my heart. So thank you to all of my friends out there. Love you. Very important to hold on to your social circles, everybody. And yeah, I mean, it was through learning that little bit of Ayurveda and seeing I was doing the coffee, I was doing all of the dried foods, I was doing the processed convenient foods, I was doing the cold and frozen, and none of that was actually working for my body type. And what I should be eating, quote unquote, was all this like warm and cooked and soupy and oily. And I was like, what? Like that's the kind of stuff my grandma made. You know, I always think about that. Of like when I would spend summers with my grandma, like it was literally like all this oily, fatty bacon grease, home cooked, you know. And when I looked back, I was like, that was actually like those summers I would spend with my grandma, eating all that like cooked, warm, homemade food and like pickled preserves that she would made herself of like stuff she got out of her garden, and going to pick blueberries from the blueberry trees. Like that, those were the times that I look back and I think like I had felt the healthiest, right? And that's when I started connecting all these dots of like, oh, so there's something to this Ayurveda thing. And the more I started learning, the more I started diving into it, the more I started trying to incorporate just things I found randomly online and in like podcasts. You know, I started piecing things together, but I still honestly had some struggles. I still had some blind spots that I didn't quite understand or see. And only later decided, when I was in a life transition, that I decided, you know, this is my time to take a leap. This is the time that I want to be able to step out of, you know, this normal path that has been laid out for me. And I want to step into this place of trying something new and trying to follow my passion and trying to feel for what my spirit's breadcrumbs were, that was that next step, that next thing that lit me up and that excited me. And that was back in like 2016, 2017, and I haven't looked back since. I mean, I started my Ayurvedic clinical education. I moved forward since then, and, you know, I've been practicing both teaching workshops. Hello, Jesus. Jesus has actually been to one of my workshops like ages ago in Sayulita. You know, I started teaching workshops in person. I started working with clients one-to-one, and, you know, I've worked with a lot of people, which has been really helpful to see so many different bodies and so many different struggles and so many different challenges when it comes to health, and also so many different lifestyles, right? And different stories. And I think this has a lot to do with our culture and our upbringing and, you know, how the beliefs that we kind of got as a young person navigated us into that early stage of young adulthood. And basically through that developmental period, what kind of habits we adopted around food and health and diet. And the thing is, those often work for us at a younger age. But when we start to hit our 30s, or when we start to hit our 40s, or when we start to hit our 50s, right, as people start to hit these new stages of life, is when they really start to realize that those old patterns and ways of being are not actually serving their health, as their body starts to need new things in a new stage and season of life. So, you know, I feel very lucky to have found this information in my early 20s. I think it's information that more of us need. I think it's information that it's information that I want more people to have access to. But as I mentioned, beyond just information, it's a healing paradigm. It's a paradigm of putting yourself first. It's a paradigm of understanding that your self-care is an ongoing practice. It is something that has to shift with your stages and your seasons, with your day-to-day. It has to shift with your reality. It has to be able to flow with your stressors and with your challenges. It can't just sit in a museum somewhere and just be the rules for life for you for life, right? Like it's a living practice. It's something that you cultivate, and the way you cultivate it is not just through that knowledge, but it's also through developing the skill of connecting with your body, right? It's both the paradigm and the framework, the tools, but then actually being able to pair those correctly with what's on the other side, which is you, which is your needs, which is your body. So that's really where I got this idea, you know, was wanting to to take myself beyond just this place of staying small and staying in my local community and teaching Ayurveda occasionally at a workshop, and understanding like this is my passion, this is what I love, this is what I love sharing with people. I love being this deep and transformational place with people where we can be sensitive and be introspective, and we can learn to appreciate each other, and we can hold space for each other. We can get really grounded in our bodies, and we can get grounded in new practices and new beliefs to practice those skills and to practice the beliefs that also need to be in place for us to understand and then be motivated to move forward with those new skills. So I wanted to create that, and I wanted to be able to share that with more people, and I wanted to be able to touch more lives. I realized at some point, I asked myself, those people who made those online quizzes, or those people who recorded those podcasts, or who wrote those blog articles, right? That I started getting those first little hits of information that literally changed my life, my health, and my trajectory. Where would I be if they were always a little too afraid to start? Or if they were afraid that they weren't going to be able to make the money they wanted to make doing this? Or if they weren't ready? Or if no one would support them if they themselves started talking about these things that felt very important to them and to their spirit? Where would I be if they were too afraid to share? And that's when I realized, like, oh shit, this is what I want to do, and really had to embrace, like, yeah, I want to be able to share this with more people, because I know there's somebody out there who is going to feel connected and who's going to receive benefit from it. And I know there's going to be someone who gets something out of it. And all it is just me showing up and sharing my story and sharing my philosophy, sharing what I've learned, sharing what is truthful in that it works for me, in that it's based both in science and it's also based in timeless wisdom, in sharing what I found works for other people in their bodies, and also being in real time troubleshooting in this group coaching course, real time troubleshooting everything that can get in the way of us prioritizing our self-care, whether that is stuck in our beliefs or our habits or our routines, or whether it's stuck in a lack of skills, a lack of knowledge, a lack of a framework to understand how our bodies work, how they function, how certain areas of our body need to be able to interact for our optimal health, like our nervous system and our gut. So, this is what I wanted to share with people today, really, was just, this little first glimpse of behind the scenes of what it's like to be somebody who for the first time is launching an online course. It's scary. There have been days when my nervous system has felt like I am at my edge, and I'm being seen in a whole new way, and I'm putting myself out there in a whole new way, and I'm trying to figure out, how can I communicate about this? How can I share about this thing that I'm so passionate about in a way that resonates and in a way that connects with other people, but also in a way that feels good to me to do it, to be on the other side sharing it. And that's actually how I came to this. Was like, I just love being in conversation. I love feeling real. I love, I honestly will say, like, with Instagram sometimes I'm like, how do I, does this feel too markety? Does this feel too unhuman? And I was like, the most human thing to me is just two people sitting and talking and chit-chatting and sharing from their hearts. And really, that's what I wanted to do. It was just like, let's pop on live. So I am planning on having a series every day of just coming on here and just sharing, frankly. I think, I would love for some of you out there to hear this and feel resonance and feel like, this is a space for you to grow and evolve. And this might be an important next step in your personal healing journey, your personal evolution journey. Because I truly believe it will be difficult to get to that place in life where you really want to be, and you want to be happier, you want to be soaking it up, right? If you're not healthy, and if you've put your self-care last, I don't think really you can get to that place without caring for yourself. And, I've seen it with a lot of people who I've worked with, who have worked for so long and they've worked so hard and they're still so unhappy. How many people do you at least know, or you've heard the stories of, like, they were in corporate America, they worked their ass off, and then maybe their relationship crumbled and stock market crashed or whatever, right? And just everything fell down around them, only for them to realize, like, I've been putting myself last this entire time. And for what? I think we all have heard that story before. Maybe some people have lived that story. Maybe some people are living that story right now, right? And I don't want to say that with any shame about any of our journeys and any of our evolutions. I think it's all unique. But what I'm trying to highlight here is I do sincerely believe, and I want to be part of a world where we prioritize our self-care more. And we prioritize care for the human body more. We prioritize understanding that self-care also involves caring for our community and caring for our emotional state, which involves truth speaking, which involves opening our hearts, which involves building more resilient spaces where we can bring forth what is needing to be addressed, what is needing to be healed, what's needing to be discussed, what's needing to be processed. And that's why this course exists. That's what Gut Health Mastery is really about in its core. And so over the next few days, tomorrow my plan is to talk about my philosophy on healing and growth. And then I want to talk about, after that, the intersection of science and soul in gut health. I had so much fun writing all this last night. And then I also want to talk about, my core self-care practices. I feel like we all need a strong core. I believe we all need a strong core. And I think, when we have sort of a strong core of self-care practices, it's not about like how many things can I put on my plate, how many, things can I stack on my to-do list, but just having like a little like magic hat that you can always pull the things you need out from. Sort of like your non-negotiables, the things that really keep you grounded and keep you healing. Navigating life's big questions through the body, balancing gut health, work, and family. What you're going to experience inside Gut Health Mastery. And these are just some of the ideas I'm going to come on here and talk about over the next few days. So I'd love you to pop in. I'm also going to probably, snip these, put them on YouTube, see how we can share them in other ways, because I just want to share this with more people. And if you feel like this is something that resonates with you, send me a message, get in touch. As I mentioned, we are, in our last 2 weeks of this launch for Gut Health Mastery for this founding members. This first 15 people, we already have 2 people signed up, which love you. So excited that you're there. And it's going to be a small group. I'm offering it at half the price that I plan to offer the course in the future for this first round. So we can walk through it live and work out any kinks, and I can learn a ton in the process as well, for certain. And, we're all here to learn from each other, because it's, like I said, it's not just about you're going to sit and I'm going to talk about Ayurveda. It's not about that. It's about evolving together. So, if that sounds like it's something that resonates with you, send me a message. We can talk more about it, whether that is talking one-to-one, on Zoom, on WhatsApp, whatever, or an email ping pong match. And as well, if you have questions about, this course and specifically, like something I maybe didn't cover today, things you want to know specifically about it, about its curriculum, about, just understanding how gut health can play a role in bettering your life right now, be happy to answer any questions about that. And if you think this conversation or anything I'm sharing here could benefit other people that you know, it would help me and also help them immensely just for you to share the video once I publish where it can be shared. As I said, I'm going to be popping this probably onto YouTube. And if you can, then just share that link with people. Then, I know not everybody in the world was sitting on Instagram live right now with me, but thank you for those of you who have come on and have spent some time with me. The idea is that, this can just reach more people. More of us can experience healing. More of us can experience evolution held in a beautiful way, in a loving way, in a kind way, in a compassionate way, in a way that puts ourselves and our bodies and our needs first. Because I think that is how I'm going to be doing my part to make the world a better place. And I'd so appreciate you either being a part of that or continuing to share it, pass it along. So with that, I will close out for today. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for listening in. Thank you for popping in. If you're watching this replay, thanks for, washing your dishes and cooking or folding your laundry or whatever you're doing while you're tidying up your home while you're finishing this. So thank you, and bye for now.